Bill, what? Go ahead.
I'm a little nervous, and I'm probably not as articulate as a lot of the people that are speaking, but I really appreciate the opportunity to speak.
Thank you,
Thank you. I'm a special ed school teacher. I work in the public school system, and I'm a Democrat. I'm saying it in this room. But I really appreciate the opportunity to speak. I think that one of my biggest umbrella statements that I could say here is that my concern is that we keep discussions open. There was a story that happened back in the 70s where there was, I think it was in Kansas, I'm not real sure where it was, but there was a group of Christian women, and they were concerned about abortion, and they said, you know, we don't want abortion and yada yada. And then there was, I think it was Planned Parenthood, and they were completely on the opposite ends of the spectrum about where they wanted to go with the problem of teenage pregnancy. And they got together and they talked, and they said, okay, we are like completely on the other side of the room, but where can we find common ground? And what they ended up doing was starting a group to prevent teenage pregnancy. So in order to even have that be a problem, they both agreed it was a problem, but where they came together was on common ground. And I think my concern is how can we maintain common ground in the months ahead, in the years ahead with New Hampshire. Because I think when we find ourselves on two ends of something, that's not where we need to remain. We need to find a point that's almost a triangle where we can say, okay, I disagree with this, I disagree with that, but we can agree that we don't agree, and we need to find a place that we can go ahead. It kind of breaks my heart, some of the stuff, the way that the tone in this room changed. I think when we were talking about voter fraud, because it was like, well, you know, John Lynch did this and the Democrats did that. And I think that what is really important, and I think where America is going, is this divisiveness between liberals and conservatives and this and that. And I think we have to be really careful, because I think we all care and we all have a lot of truths that we need to say. And I think it's important that these opportunities be encouraged, be sought after, and be maintained. I think that one of the things that I belong to the union, and one of the important things that I've gotten from the union is that it's kept me informed on the legislation that's coming up. It is. Of course. No, but it's good for me because as a citizen, let her speak. As a citizen, it's good for me to be informed, and it's good for me to come to things like this so that I can be informed and understand where we're going from, because I understand that everybody has their different viewpoints and their own interests that we need to keep in mind. But I think that when people disagree, I think we have to be really careful about that disagreement. And I'm always a person that really needs checks and balances in my life. And if we take away regulations from big business, then big business can, you know, maybe get a little too powerful and they kind of lose sight of other things. So I think it's really important that I want my government to keep tabs on things, but also I know that as a school district, we have given out pay raises in the last 2 years in our negotiations. I bring home a less paycheck than I did 2 years ago, and my paycheck is smaller than it was last year. So our union has negotiated with our school district to actually bring home less money. So is that a bad thing? Are negotiations bad? I don't, you know, in my case, I don't think it is. So I just think it's really, you know, important that if we disagree, that we maintain our checks and balances, and we just don't say, oh, that's a bad thing, but there might be reasons why, and we need to continue to look at that. And as a citizen, I appreciate you listening to me, and I appreciate you, because I really feel like you're listening to me and what I have to say. Thank you.
really appreciate it. It makes a difference. And this is what we wanted out of this. Both these forums are, back and forth. I think a lot of us understand we don't have a monopoly on knowledge and a monopoly on all the solutions, and we really want to hear them. Pam, why don't you?
To your point, I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name, but
Barbara Perry.
Barbara. Hey, no, seriously, thanks for coming. When you stood up and talked initially, you sounded like one of my very closest friends. She is a special ed teacher in the school district right next door to us. And we talk, and she gets all the exact same literature that you get, and we do talk about it. Because she wants to know, well, where do you stand? Why did you vote this way or this? And you know what? Education is the most important thing. But what I did want to address with you, that's just a side issue, is what do we want? You say that we're divisive now. There's one here, and it seems like we're butting heads. And you're right, you see that in the media. But when we both decide that what do we want that's a common ground, we want the best education for our kids. And we use that as a starting point when we start talking about education and funding of education and how we're going to teach our kids. And from there, from that point of the best education, excellence in education, as DJ said, from there we can take our points of view and find what is best for our children. And I think what you're saying does have a lot of merit, but we need to be willing to listen to the other side, and that goes for both sides.
Just one point I'd like to bring up as well. And I get passionate about where we're going and the things that we're standing up for. And perhaps at times that makes me a little over-aggressive. But if you look at the hard numbers of legislation that is passed in Concord or legislation that is not passed in Concord, it's something like 70–75%. It's completely unanimous. There is no partisan disagreement. What does get a lot of the attention, I think, as Pam said, are the arguments and the disagreements. So I think it sometimes gives people a misconception about what's really going on. I want to share with you a story that I had last year related to the topic that you brought up in your example. We wanted to move forward with a parental notification law that made sense for New Hampshire. We continually, the Speaker and I, talked with Governor Lynch about working together, getting language that we could support and that he could support. And the response we got was, I'll get back to you on that. I'm going to have my legal counsel look at that. I'll get back to you. I'm committed to it. I didn't like the previous law, but I believe in the principle. And it dragged on and on and on. And at some point we had to say, okay, we have to make a decision here. We have to move forward. And it was bitterly disappointing to me, not because I wanted that to be a partisan issue, but because I didn't want it to be a partisan issue. I wanted to work with the governor to get something done. We're experiencing the same thing with the constitutional amendment on education. We're trying to work with the governor, appreciating the realities of what we have in the House and the opinions that we have in the House, and the views and the opinions we have in the Senate, and the views and the opinions that we have of the governor. But at some point, you have to draw a line in the sand and make a hard decision. And it is my hope and it's my goal as we continue throughout this legislative session to have more times than not everybody working together on the same page than times we have to make a hard decision and separate ourselves from our colleagues in government.
Again, thank you for coming. I appreciate the question.
Croc TV.